In security matters, the prescription for porous networks at the Office of Personnel Management. Last June, OPM revealed a massive data breach that compromised the personnel records of more than 21 million federal workers. The cyber incident resulted in a sweeping overhaul of the agency's IT infrastructure. Also cost Director Katherine Archuleta her job. Now there's a new analysis compiled by Homeland Security and the FBI that sheds new light on the breach. Joining me with the latest is Adam Mazmanian, Executive Editor for FCW. Hello. Adam, let's set the stage here. One of your reporters, Sean Lingus, got his hands on an unclassified memo. Tell us about it.
Well, it was an after-action report prepared by DHS and the FBI that basically took a look at two breaches that happened in the recent past, and we determined that one of them was, in fact, the OPM breach that was first reported in April of 2015. Now, these kinds of after-action reports are useful for contractors, for federal IT workers, to look at things they could be doing better in order to prevent those kinds of large-scale breaches.
All right, so what exactly did DHS and the FBI discover?
Well, what they found, and one of the biggest deals in the report, is that there was they identified kind of a lax culture when it comes to information security. There weren't software wasn't patched according to schedule. Dual-factor authentication wasn't used the way it should be, and people didn't have segmented access to the networks. This was a problem especially for people who were teleworking, logging in perhaps from their homes. They had access to a whole range of information that perhaps they should not have given their circumstances.
All right, the agency is trying to right its cyber hygiene. Here's an excerpt from FCW's report. Organization 1 is in the process of boosting identity management via two-factor authentication from IT security firm Exedium. OPM has also enlisted Booz Allen Hamilton and Campbell, California-based Scout Technologies for cyber defense tools under CDM. Put all of this into context for us, Adam.
Well, the government is in the middle of a very large push towards implementing two-factor authentication across all agencies. Two-factor authentication just means using an additional, usually a physical credential, to complement your username and password. And that way, if somebody does obtain your username and password, they still can't log into the network and get information without the card.
So how does this relate to FISMA?
Well, FISMA is basically the set of rules that the government uses to govern information security by agencies. And in the past, it has been kind of a laundry list. You check the box if you're doing all of the things they say you need to be doing. It was modified recently, and in its most recent form, it really tries to focus on outcomes. So having 100% use of dual-factor authentication, 95% patching up to date, and those kinds of things.
Adam, you've been following this story for months now. Before you go, I'm curious, what's still unknown about the OPM data breach?
I guess the biggest unknown for me is what's happened to the data. It was widely assumed that China or some aspect of the Chinese government or military was responsible for the hack. But the data hasn't shown up, on the black market as far as has been reported so far. So it remains to be seen what the data will be used for.
Interesting. It could be years before we find out. Adam Mazmanian, Executive Editor of FCW. Thanks again, Adam.
Thank you, Morris.